and I'll be with you in one moment. We had a bit of a technical issue getting here. How's everyone doing? You good? Disable the chat. Uh-oh. Damn. 1 second. Where's the chat option? There we go. Nice. Okay. Hey, everyone. My name's Daniel. I'm the 7 Wakes director of the Hackathon Club. I do USA Computing Olympiad. I'm a gold competitor. And today I'll be teaching Java. Just a heads up, we go extremely fast for this class because I was wondering with the team at Kid Teach Kid, I was like, I wonder how much these kids can learn in 4 weeks. And so we're going to put that to the test. And in these 4 weeks, we're going to try to cover a solid, approximately a semester of a high school level computer science class. So strap on your seatbelts and let me adjust my camera a bit. And we're going to get started. Today, we're going to be doing variables and basic data structures in Java. So let me present my screen. Everyone can see my screen. Cool. Here we go. It's now exactly 3 o'clock. All right, what is computer science? Many of you probably know this, but we'll go over it from the very beginning because I'm assuming 0 prior experience here. Computer science is the study of code. It's the study of how to create structures and patterns that computers can execute and get things done with. So if you know anything about, say, economics, which is a very similar field, computer science is an entirely artificial construct. But the field is so important and complicated that it's become a whole field of study in and of itself. Someone raised their hand. I don't know what that means, but cool. Can you please open the panelist chat? Because it's easier than Q&A. What platform are we using for coding? We're going to be using rebel.it, so we don't have to waste much time sending the, what's it called? We don't have to waste much time installing Eclipse and OpenJDK and all of those things. But does it help if I learned Python before? Probably not. I'm just going to say answered live to a few questions. Can you please open the panelist chat because it's easier than Q&A. I don't even know what that means. I'm really, really bad actually at figuring out how Zoom works. We had a training session and I already forgot how half of these features work, but we're gonna get started. I'm gonna go on. Someone asked if you can use IntelliJ. If you already have an IDE installed and ready to go, fine, go ahead and use that. But we're going to be using an online IDE because it's simpler. Okay, so what is Java? Java is a programming language, and a programming language is just something that the computer can understand. It's a set of instructions that the computer can understand. And this tells the computer to execute these instructions one after another in order to get something done. So how does Java work? And this is where it starts to really matter, so pay a bit of attention. Java is what's known as a compiled language. That means unlike Python, someone asked about Python in the Q&A, unlike Python, the code is turned into binary, which is a series of 1s and 0s that's directly fed into the computer's processing unit for processing. Number 1, that means it's fast. Python, you might know, is a slow language. Java is very fast. Java is also object-oriented, which means the whole language is built around what's known as objects and functions. These are advanced concepts we're going to get to in the final lesson. So how does the computer actually read Java? In short, within every function that you have in the code, the computer is going to read Java from the top down, 1 line at a time. It's only going to break out of this set order through functions, logic gates, and loops. We're going to cover a few of those in later lessons. Today, everything you're going to run is going to more or less happen in order. executing each line one after another. This is an important concept. And it sounds simple, but trust me, everyone gets this wrong at first. Nothing will ever happen in parallel. Nothing will ever, the computer doesn't have any context when it's reading stuff. It's not like a human. It's only going to read it one line at a time from the top down. All right, let's start coding. Every Java project must have this essential code. It's going to look like this: public class main, or you can actually name it some other class, but we're gonna go with main. And then you open with a curly bracket, and then you put this very, very long function inside, and it means public static void main string args. I'm guessing people are asking me where to write this because my Q&A just popped up. I'm gonna mark a few questions as done, but there's no way I can get through all of these questions. How do you set up repo.int? Okay, so I'm going to get to repo.int in a moment, but for now, don't worry about this code. I'm just telling you what it starts like. I'm going to give you a template code later so that you can get started quickly on REPL. All right, what's capability number one? Feature number one of Java. You need to be able to print stuff to your screen. This is using the system.out.println method. Y'all, stop raising your hand. Holy crap. All right. So project number one we're going to do is called Hello World. If you've already done this before, if you have prior programming experience, I guarantee you've done it before. But we're going to go to this link, and I'm going to send it in the, oh, actually, I just realized I can't open the chat because you guys are going to spam it. So it's probably best if you go from here and just go to this link. Type it into your browser. You can type in repl.it/@Daniel Way, my name, /hello-world. Raise your hand once you're done. That'll just give me a quick notification that people are starting to finish. Okay, cool. So once you're on repl.it, your code should look something like this. And I just realized I'm not sharing my entire screen. So let me share my entire screen. 1 second. All right, that's the entire screen. So once you're on repl.it, the key to using it, by the way, is you should have a button on the top right that says fork. Hit fork, and that'll make your own local copy of it. And then you can write your code inside of here. Now, if you recall what we just did, what's the print statement? How do you print stuff? It's, again, this is kind of a complicated line, so you just have to memorize it. And at the end of the lesson, actually at the beginning of the next lesson, I'm going to give y'all a set of notes, a cheat sheet kind of, with a lot of the basic commands for Java inside of it, so that you don't have to memorize this. Because again, we're going very quickly. But I'll get that to you next lesson. For now, what's important is that you do your best to memorize it, because it helps a lot with your speed later on. So we're going to do system.out.println hello world. And what that's going to do when you hit run is it's going to print hello world to the screen on the right. Right? Okay, so let's talk about the syntax a little bit. What happened here is that this is what is known as an object. Classes are objects. Don't worry about what that means for now. Just know that it's an object. We're going to touch upon that later because, again, it gets very complicated. This is what's known as a function. Now you'll see that this line of code where we printed stuff, it's inside the function. And that's the key. If we put a lot of print statements next to each other, like say hello world 1, hello world 2, hello world 3, and hello world 4, and we ran it, the computer is going to go into this function and it's going to execute these lines one at a time from the top down. And if you see on the right, it's done exactly that. It printed the hello world one at a time from the top down. Awesome. Let's move on. By the way, technically, if you wrote hello world now, you're technically a programmer now. Oh, one more thing about syntax, actually. I almost forgot. Every line ends with a semicolon. Why is this important? The computer doesn't know where one line begins and one line ends. So it needs to use semicolons to break every line into pieces. Cool? If you're not raising your hand for a particular reason, please stop spamming it. Thank you. All right, the next most important concept is known as variables. This is extraordinarily important, so stick with me. One of the most important capabilities in all programming languages are variables. And just like in math, variables are items where the value can change. This makes your code flexible. For instance, in Java, there's a few different types of variables called data types. The most fundamental data types, the one that is built into the language itself and that cannot be changed, are called primitives. If you think of something that's primitive, that means it hasn't evolved, it hasn't changed, right? And so these primitives are ints, doubles, Booleans, and chars. What that corresponds to in normal English language is integers, whole numbers, doubles, which means decimal points, numbers that are decimals, such as 5.2 or 6.1. Booleans, which are simply true, false. A Boolean only holds two possible values. This is key. Boolean only holds two possible values, true and false. And then char or character, such as the letter A or an exclamation mark. I see black spots. Is this normal? Yes, this is Zoom's interface has black spots whenever I open another window on top. So I'm sorry for that. I'm going to be sending links later on once I figure out how to do that. Okay. The next most important thing is syntax. We're gonna figure out now how to declare your variables. Since now you know we can make variables in Java, let's actually make a few in your code. So go on the hello world code that you were working on earlier on from repo.it. And let me send the code actually in the chat. This is the link. Go back to Zoom. Chat. All panelists and attendees. Okay, you guys should be able to access the link now. That'll set you up for some basic hello worlding. Okay, so now you can write this code inside. How to declare variables. To declare an integer, you write int space and then the name of your variable, whatever you want to call it. It could be Bob, it could be I. You can generally, you want to name it something that you'll be able to remember later. And the most generic one is like int number or int variable number 1 is equal to, and then give it a value such as 5. You can also give 0, you can give it 10, you can give it whatever. And then don't forget the semicolon. To make a decimal number, similar. You make a double space, the name of your decimal number, space equals, space, and then the value that you want to give your decimal. If you want to put in a character, this is where it starts to get tricky. And again, you have to memorize this stuff. Char, space, the name of the character, space equals space, and then you need to put single quotation marks, apostrophes basically, around your character. Why, you might ask? The reason is simple, actually. The reason is if you don't put apostrophes around your character, Java thinks it's actually another variable. And we're going to talk about this later, but you can assign variables to other variables. And if you don't put apostrophes around it, the computer's just going to get confused. So if you put apostrophes around it, it's telling the computer it's a single character. This is the trick to remember it. Single apostrophes, single quotation marks, single character. Finally, you can do Boolean space, whatever you want to name the Boolean, space equals space, and then either true or false. If, and I doubt anyone here does, but if you have experience in something like C++ or another one of those more old and kind of hard to use languages, frequently Booleans are either 1 or 0. In Java, it's either true or false. They're technically the same thing, but trust me, in Java, it's true or false. It won't work with 1s and 0s. Next slide. All right, here's where the fun begins. We can do math on these variables. Just like you can do math on algebraic variables like x plus y, you can do math on programming variables. These are your operators: plus, minus. The asterisk means multiply. Slash means divide. And percent means modulo. Raise your hand if you know what modulo means. Ooh, awesome. Wow, this is a smart group. So, modulo means to take the remainder for the few of you that didn't raise your hand. Modulo means to take the remainder. If I did 5 modulo 4, the answer is 1. Make sense? Or if I did 6 modulo 4, it would be 2. Because 6 divided by 4 is 1, remainder 2. Okay, so if in the code I wanted to take the double and take the quotient of 5 and 2, I could assign the answer to a variable. So double answer is equal to 5.0 divided by 2.0. You can stop raising your hand now. All right, here's a trick, and this is where Java starts to get a little bit weird. If you're not careful, you could end up with some really, really weird answers in your code. For instance, int answer equals 5/2. Well, what do you think the answer is? Let me open up the chat for you. 1 second. All right, send me, what do you think the answer is? The answer, and a lot of you got this, very smart. Okay, I'm gonna close the chat again because you all got it. The answer is 2. It's not 2.5. It's not 5 halves. It's not 2.5. It's 2. And the reason is Java says, oh, look, the answer is an integer. You made it an integer, int. Int answer equals 5/2. And by making it an integer, you're guaranteeing that it's a whole number. So once Java sees 5, oh, oops, I clicked by accident. Once Java sees 5 divided by 2, it sees, oh, both of these are integers. Obviously, the answer must be an integer. So instead of doing the calculation, it just cuts off everything after the decimal point. So instead of 2.5, you just get 2. I just explained it, so I'm going to move on. Totally forgot I made that slide. Okay. Now stuff becomes powerful. Let's combine variables. You can add, subtract, multiply, divide, and modulo your variables just like you would for raw numbers. For instance, you can put this code into your repo.it and you can try it. And at all times, I know I'm moving really fast, but at all times, feel free to try this code yourself. You can run double space input 1 equals 5.0. Double space input 2 equals 2.5. Oh, I forgot a semicolon there. Ah, my bad. And then what you can do is if you want to take the division of both of them, you just do input 1 divided by input 2. And then that way you would be dividing those variable names. Make sense? In fact, then you can assign the output directly to a variable, which we call quotient. Why are y'all all raising your hand? Like, serious question. I'm going to open up the chat so that you can chat to me directly in case there's an issue. I'd rather you not raise your hand because it kind of interferes with the screen. I don't know if you guys can see the hands, but it interferes with the screen. Okay. Second important concept, syntax. Syntax refers to how the code is written and how it looks. It has nothing to do with the concept, and it's purely memorization based. It helps make the code easier to read and understand. Now let's go back to the REPL. Let me open it up. Okay, so what are some elements of syntax here? Well, for one, you can see that whenever you have something inside of something else, they all need to be indented. You can hit the tab button on your keyboard to indent something. Tab, and then it goes in. You see, tab. However, you don't want to randomly use it. You only want to use tab in order to put stuff inside of each other. Notice that this function I highlighted is inside of the class. Thus, this function is tabbed once. Note that the print statements are inside of the function. Thus, the print statements are tabbed twice. Every level deeper you go, you want to tab once, and that keeps the code easy, consistent, and easy to read. Let me go back to my slides. Some other syntax points. Your variable names can't have spaces. I know, weird. They also can't begin with a number. That's just how Java is designed. So if you want to put numbers inside of your variable name, the number needs to go after some characters, some normal letters. The second thing is, if you want your variable names to have multiple words, you need to use what's known as camel casing. And I have demonstrated it right here. Whatever you want to name the variable, you do, like for instance, you want to name it name of variable, 3 words. The first one is all lowercase, and then you capitalize the first letter of every word and then mash them all together. It's kind of ugly, but what it does is it keeps your code easy to read while still following the no spaces rule, which means no spaces inside of variable names. All right, this one's cool. Comments. You can write comments into your code. What you want to do is you want to write a double slash, and then everything after that double slash isn't going to be executed by the computer. It's not read by the computer. It's not interpreted by the computer. The computer is going to totally skip over it as if it wasn't even there. Why is this useful? It's actually useful to help yourself keep track of what you're doing. Say, and later on, you might be writing much more complicated programs, but say you write this really powerful and complicated function. You want to write a comment to yourself, telling yourself, what does this function do? What does it need? How does it work? And then what that means is in a year or two, you can come back to that function and you can figure out what you were doing when you wrote it. In the real world, comments are extraordinarily important because you're going to be working with developers from other states and other countries, and they need to be able to know what you're doing on a daily basis in your code. I'm going to take a look at the chat and double check everything is going all right. Okay, what about underscores? You can do underscores. That's absolutely right. You can put underscores in your variable names. However, most people don't do that. There's a reason for that. Underscores take a little bit longer to type. I'm not even kidding. What you need to do is you need to hold shift and then you type the dash key and it's going to type an underscore. And programmers want to save as much time as possible. So they don't even want to do that. Someone asked how long is this lesson? This lesson for computer science is about an hour, so you have about half an hour left. Okay. Here is another capability. Similar to prints, this one's also important. It's known as user input. You can read in stuff when the user types stuff into your code. So this is line number 1, scanner input equals new scanner system.in. I know, it's long, sorry. You just have to memorize this. I can't explain what it does to you right now because it's too complicated. The second part is var usernum equals input.nextint. What does this do? Input.nextint is going to take in an integer that the user writes into the console. What you just did is you've assigned it to a variable called usernum. So now usernum stores whatever number the user types in. There's one more thing I forgot to mention here, which is that you need to import the scanner. Scanner is an external package that's not built into default Java, so you have to import it. All right, let me open this up. This is your second project. And let me actually import scanner for you. Scanner input equals new scanner system.in. Okay, then we're gonna import it, import java.util.scanner. Okay, cool. Write your code here. Cool. Let me share this with you. Okay. Incoming into the chat. To all panelists and attendees. All right, it's in the chat now. Okay, so what you want to do is once you've opened the link, let me give a quick demonstration since I wasn't very clear at first. Once you've opened the link, you can hit fork, and this will make your own copy of it so that you won't be messing around with other stuff. I used the code and now it's getting errors. Well, did you write, for instance, oh, oops, my bad. Int, for instance, number is equal to input.nextint. And then if you want to print it out, let's print out the number. Let's just repeat the number back to whatever the user put in. So if you run it and the user types in a number, such as 5, it's going to get 5 printed right back to me. Some people seem to have errors in their code. Let me take a look at your code. Also, someone asked, oops, IDK, why the indent is there. By the way, Java doesn't read white space. White space meaning spaces and indents. It doesn't read it. You technically could put everything on a single line and it would still work. I don't recommend it though. Check for your semicolons if you're missing them. Good catch, Leo. Someone else asked, is this the last lesson for today? I'm not sure. What did you sign up for? I don't run this organization. I'm just helping to teach it. Oh, let me turn on Do Not Disturb. I have notifications. Oops. Okay. You think you have everything? Try copying my code exactly, Anna. Can you zoom in? I can't really see. Sorry. Let me actually zoom in. That's a good point. Oops, I zoomed out. Okay, there we go. Is that close enough? Awesome. I just realized I zoomed in so much that some of the lines got kind of cut off. Can I affect my zoom a little bit? I change my zoom. There we go. There we go. Awesome. Changing Zoom on Zoom. It says error compiler exit status. I'm not sure. Check you have everything done. Worst case, try putting input.close. This is actually not a mandatory step, but it might help. At the very end of the code, put input.close. Also, raise your hand if it's working for you. Awesome. Good. If the code isn't working, try to copy this exactly. Actually, let me send this in the chat. My import statement was inside the class. Ha! Yep, be careful. Matters where all of the lines go. Import goes at the very, very top. Okay, everyone, we're gonna move on. Okay. Oh, I almost forgot, actually. What were we just doing? Here's your challenge. Are you ready? Your challenge is take the scanner code, this one, and what I want you to do is read in 2 numbers from the user and then multiply them together and print out the product. Do you think you can do that? I'll give everyone just 5 minutes. It's not that hard. Come on, you got this. You got this. You got this. A quick word of warning, variables can't have the same name. So when you make those 2 variables, one for each number you read in from the user, you want to make sure that they have different names. Otherwise, it's going to give you an error. Can you put the link in the chat? Yeah, sure. Okay, let me repeat the question. Read in 2 numbers from the user. That's your challenge. Read in 2 numbers from your user and then print out the product of those 2 numbers. I'm going to wait just a few more minutes and then I will go over the answer together. Sorry for the black spots on the screen. I'm looking at the Q&A session. While you guys are gonna work, I'm just gonna go through the Q&A. There are ints, doubles, booleans, cars, and bytes. You're right. There are a few other types of primitives, but we don't use bytes very often. We also don't use shorts very often or longs. And that's because there are all types of smaller data types that we just honestly don't really use. Another question. So technically you could write your entire program in 1 line of code. Technically, yes. Please don't do that. That's horrible. Strings are not primitives. I caught you. Ha. Okay, so people asked about strings. Strings are not primitives. That's a very, very common misconception. They're not primitives. They're objects. They're basically the fancy version of the data type. They don't they're not built into the language itself. Weird, isn't it? In Python, I know they are primitives. In Java, they are not. Someone else asked, do I run Linux? Very good catch. I run Ubuntu 20.04. Haha. Y'all are smart. Let me bring this up actually on live. And 2 more minutes, by the way, to solve the challenge. Someone wrote this. Int answer equals 5.1 over 5. and said, oh, it gave an error instead of 1. Very good catch. Here's why it gave an error. This is a double, 5.1. This is an int. When a double interacts with an int, it converts the whole thing to a double. And that's because doubles are larger than ints. And by larger, I mean they cover more types of numbers, right? Since all ints can technically be doubles, or all whole numbers are technically decimals, but not all decimals are whole numbers. So when this double interacts with this integer, it turns this whole thing into a double, but then you try to assign it to an int. And the computer's like, hold up, you're trying to turn this double into an int. That's not gonna work. And it threw an error. The difference between earlier on we did int answer equals 5/2, right? This works because this is an int and this is an int. So the answer here is an int, and then we assigned it to an int. The answer is wrong in that it's 2 and not 2.5, but they were all ints, so the computer thought it was fine. This is turning a double, making a double, and then assigning it to an int. That's not allowed. If you made this a double, however, then it would work. Make sense? Okay, everyone, awesome. Time's up for the challenge. If you got your calculator, your miniature calculator to multiply the two numbers together, congratulations. Let me go back to my slideshow. I keep losing track of what that is. Okay. This is what the answer looks like. Once it wins. My computer is kind of slow. Okay, let me zoom in. Whoa, zoomed in way too much. Okay. Okay, cool. So this is what the answer looks like. Remember, we have the scanner. We read in from system.in. And then I just did system.println, enter a number to make sure they can enter a number. And then I read in the first number they put in. And I say, hey, enter another number. And then I read in the second number they put in. I do product is equal to the first number times the second number. And then I print it out. So if I run it, you'll see enter number. It says, okay, 8. Enter another number. Okay, 4. And then printed out the answer, which is 32. Awesome. Let us move on. Oh, my computer's lagging. Please stop spamming the raise hand. Please stop. Okay. All right. Concept number 3, Booleans. Oh no, we're running out of time. Okay. Booleans. Booleans are the fancy name for the data type that only has 2 modes, true and false. That's all. It can only hold those two values, true and false. How is this useful, you might ask? Well, it's actually the very, very heart of programming. Everything in the end is a Boolean. So let's evaluate Booleans. What does that mean? Well, Boolean, since it's true or false, it's evaluated from a condition. And that condition tells the Boolean whether to be true or false. For instance, if I had 2 variables, int num1 equals 5 and int num2 equals 3, the statement num1 bigger than num2 is true. So if I assign this statement num1 is bigger than num2 to a Boolean, that Boolean would also be true. Does that make sense? Cool. So what other statements can we do other than just greater than? Well, we can have less than, greater than. The double pipe, it's called a pipe, by the way. It's the straight line on your keyboard that's above the enter key. The double pipe means or. The double and means and. This, I turn on my pointer. This means greater than or equal to. This means less than or equal to. And this means equal to. Okay. We're doing a lot of projects, I know, but the best way to get good at programming is programming. So let's make a calculator, and you can just work on your previous project. You don't have to start a new one. Let's make a calculator that takes in two user numbers and prints out whether they're equal or not. You're going to print out true if they're equal to each other, if the user put in the same number twice, and you're going to print out false if the user put in two different numbers. I'm going to give you another 5 minutes for this project. Actually, you don't need 5 minutes. I'm going to give you 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Okay? Stop raising your hand. And the reason for that is once you're done with the project, raise your hand. But right now, stop raising your hand. I'm going to just give you 2 minutes, and I'm also going to check the Q&A while we're doing that. Someone asked, what are those black bars that keep popping up? The black bars are when people raise their hand. Underscores are fine. Underscores work. Why not use buffered reader? Because buffered reader is kind of complicated. I don't want to teach y'all integer.parseInt on the first lesson, y'all. That's not cool. Okay. Watch out for the semicolons, people. Is the scanner input statement? Oh, whoa. This is a good question. Answer live. Is the scanner input statement needed for each instance, or is it only required once in the code? I mean, actually go back. That's a great question. This scanner, this line right here, scanner input equals new scanner, only needs to be run once. Only needs to be written once. But whenever you want another number that the user puts in, you have to write input.nextint again. Make sense? But this line itself only needs to be written once. Okay, let me keep answering questions while you guys finish up the project. Judging from the hands being raised, I'm guessing most people are done. Could you make a game in Java? You can, you definitely can. You're not gonna be able to do that today. You're probably not gonna be able to do that by the end of the 4th week of this lesson. Games are complicated. I started building games in like the 2nd year of learning computer science. Someone said, like complex numbers are larger than real numbers. That's a perfect analogy. If y'all don't know what the difference is, by the way, ignore what I just said, but that's a perfect analogy. Okay, people are saying, it works, good job. Also someone said to check the chat. Whoa. You sent your REPL like a bajillion times in the chat. Guys, I can't check all of y'all's code. I'll check your code though, because you asked for it. Equality calculator. Actually, if your code is correct, I'm going to use it as the answer. I'm looking at it. It looks correct. Let me test it. Enter number 5. True. Good job. This works. Let me try again. 5, 4. False. Good job. It works. Good job, Tony, I think. Was it Tony? Yep. Good job, Tony. You got it. Y'all, this is what the answer looks like. All right. Moving on. We're running out of time. Actually, we're not running out of time. Ha, I made it through the whole slideshow. Did not think that would happen. Okay, that's all for today. What did we go over? What is Java? How does it work? Remember, reads one line at a time from the top down, compiled into binary. We went over how to print to the console, how to read stuff in from the user using a scanner, how to create and work with variables, and how to create and work with Booleans. Now, we're not done yet. Here's your homework project. Enjoy. Fun fact, it's hard. Well, it's not that hard, but it's not easy. I will never test you over anything you didn't learn in class, but I am going to try and take this to the next level to improve your critical thinking skills, because what programming is about math and it's about logic. Okay? So, your challenge this week, and if you can't read the text here, it's because people are spamming raised hands, so stop spamming raised hand. Okay. There is a line represented by the function y equals 2x plus 5. It splits the coordinate plane into two broad areas. That area which is above the plane, above the line, obviously, and the area below. I want you to read in two numbers from the user, an x coordinate and a y coordinate. And I want you to print true if that coordinate point is above the line. I want you to print false if the point is below or on the line. It sounds pretty hard, doesn't it? It'll take a bit of thinking. That's what I'll tell you. It'll take a bit of thinking, but on the other hand, don't overthink it either. Do your best. You have until next lesson to do this, actually. Let me make a scanner template REPL and also paste the homework onto it. And then that way you guys can fork it and work on it yourselves. Let me make that real fast. So we're gonna do scanner. Input equals new scanner system.in. And just as a reminder, by the way, this is a comment. As a reminder, I can't type stuff with you guys raising your hand. Do you realize that? Thank you. Okay, and then let me copy paste the homework in to the comment. Okay, let me share this with you. Let me dump it into the chat. What if the point is on the line? Print true if the coordinate point is above the line. Print false if the point is below or on the line. Here's my template. That's your homework for this week. The next 10 minutes is for questions. Questions. Any questions? Let me actually open the Q&A. I keep forgetting that exists. Is it required, the homework? Well, if you want to learn Java with us, like if you want to keep up, it's basically required because we're gonna be moving fast. However, I'm not going to make you do it. I can't force you to do it. If you don't want to learn anything, that's fine with me. Where do we submit our homework? We're going to check it together, go over the answer together in class next week. You're not going to submit it until then. What do I do when I'm done with the homework? Oh, then number one, congrats, you're smart. I guarantee not everyone in this Zoom call has done that already. And number two, just wait until next lesson. Isn't it possible to do this in 2 minutes? Congrats, you're smart. Cool, we get it. I'm kidding, y'all. What was the equation we were supposed to use again? 2x plus 5. Y equals 2x plus 5. Wait, I have a question. Bro, if you have a question, just ask the question. Check my homework, please. Oh, I'm done. Okay, I'll check it afterwards because I don't want to accidentally show it to everyone. Someone spam the chat. Okay, stop spamming, please. You're covering up other people's questions. And that's called not cool. Okay. Do we have any questions about Java itself, about how this stuff works? I know I went very quickly today. If you have prior knowledge of Java, I didn't go quickly enough. If you don't have any prior knowledge, I'm sorry, I might have gone too quickly. It's very, very hard to balance with such a large class. Any other questions? Shoot them in the Q&A. This anonymous attendee keeps spamming. How do I kick you? Oh, I'm trying to clear the poll because there's a poll. I don't know how to clear. Oh my God, Zoom is disgusting. Why is it designed so poorly? Dang. Okay, I give up on the polling. Any more questions? We're almost done for today. I am done. Can I go? Yes. Can you go again through the input scanner stuff? Sure, no problem. Okay. This line of code, I'm sorry, you just have to basically memorize it or copy it. And it's just scanner input equals new scanner system.in in parentheses. What it does, if you want to know like the complicated backend stuff, is it's basically making an object called scanner, which is imported from the library, and then it's initializing that scanner to read in stuff from the console, which is the system.in. That might help you remember it, or it might have just confused you more. Next, here's the key part, input dot next int, open parentheses, close parentheses. What this does is it's going to read in the number that the user types in. That's all it does. And then you can just assign that to a variable. Cool. Let me go back to the Q&A. What can you do with Java? That is a great question. Java as a language really got famous because of its use on the internet. They made things called Java applets, which were like little programs that you could download from the internet and instantly run. And that was cool. And it was a very revolutionary programming language because you could write the same code on every single machine. Which at the time, back in like the late 1990s, was very revolutionary. These days, it's kind of a slowly dying language, but it's still very, very popular. Is Zoom in Java? No, it's not. I don't think it is. You should design Zoom. Ha ha ha. Thank you. That's heartwarming. What is the difference between Java and JavaScript? Everyone asks this every time. What is the difference between Java and JavaScript? JavaScript is used for web development. It's used for websites. Java is used for your local computer. So JavaScript and Java are totally different, 100%. Even how they're constructed is different. Can you make an app with Java? Yes. Did you know Android apps are coded in Java. You probably didn't know that. How do you code a Java compiler? You can't. I mean, you could, but like, why would you do that? No, don't. That sounds like pain. Can you use Java for machine learning? You probably could, but people don't really do that. People normally use Python for machine learning. Can you make an app with Java? Yes. I just answered that. Ooh. I'm going to stop screen sharing, actually, and I kind of want to see some of y'all's answers. Because some people tried to do the homework already. But here's the thing. Eric Zhang sent this about a minute ago into the Q&A. Eric, your homework works. It definitely does work. But you use something I didn't teach in class today. Use if statements. I didn't teach that. Can you try to do it without if statements? Try to do it without if statements. Come on, you got this. Don't use anything I haven't taught in class. Don't overthink it. You don't need to use if statements. It's not necessary. You got this. Give it a shot again. You can send the code again in the chat if you want. Can you teach us to code for an app? I am teaching you coding, and thus I am sort of teaching you how to code an app. Apps are all code in the bottom. Is Python related with Java? Because I learned Python basic. Python is kind of related with Java, but it's not really. They have similar concepts, but the syntax and how it works is almost entirely different. Okay, I think I answered most people's questions. Python is the dumb person language. Aw, that's funny. It's not the dumb person language. It's used in a lot of very, very mission critical stuff, but it is an easier language to learn, but that doesn't necessarily make it dumber. Okay, I think we're about time is up. Isabella is here. Let me make you the host, actually. Hello.